Welcome, Andrea. Peace.
Thanks very much, Rebecca, and thanks everyone for having me today. I'd just like to actually start by acknowledging all of the emergency management personnel who worked so tirelessly over the 2019-20 season, and also acknowledge those who suffered loss of loved ones and property and livelihood. It was an incredible season of weather, and it certainly won't be forgotten. So as Rebecca said, I started out as a meteorologist. I moved into communication around 6 or 7 years ago, but had really been championing communication at the Bureau since the start of my career because I saw this real gap in the Bureau's ability to communicate to the community. So today's presentation, I'd like to really focus on the 2019-20 season, talk through some of the new types of content that we've produced, some of the successes that we had, some of the lessons that we learned, and also some of the challenges, because not surprisingly, there were some challenges as well. So if I can move on to the first slide, please. And the next one, thank you. So I'm going to assume that the majority of people online are familiar with the Bureau and the work that we do. Our mission is to provide trusted, reliable and responsive weather, water, climate and ocean services for Australia all day, every day. We are 24/7, 365 or 66 days a year. And one of the ways that we do this now is through video, with the real aim to change behaviour through creating tailored, relevant and timely information to better enable decision making. Next slide, please. The Bureau started producing video content in-house around 6.5 years ago. So we're now a team, I actually might get that to pause if I can. If the video will pause, that would be great. Thank you. We're now a team of 4, so myself and 3 video producers. All of our video presenters are scientists who can communicate, but it's no one's primary job to be presenting in videos at this stage. So every time we need to produce a video, we have to basically beg, borrow and steal somebody's time, which is a bit of a challenge, but everyone's pretty willing, and I think everyone kind of enjoys it. So what I've got here with this video is a compilation of about 4 of the different types of videos that we produce. So the first, you can start the video now, thank you. The first is evergreen or educational content. So we generally use a combination of presenters and these graphics, 3D graphics. And this is the type of content we try and produce during the cooler months and have ready to go in the warmer months. And it's really aimed at the general community. We knew straight up that we needed to be able to use animation to create complex, or to communicate complex science information. So our skills have evolved and developed over time. And yeah, we've got that 3D land going on now, which has been really well received by the community. Now we've moved on to severe weather video. These are done ad hoc. We're about to have communication meteorologists start, people whose primary role it will be to present, and that's going to allow us to do more videos and take on different formats. And those are really aimed at more the general community and emergency management sectors and media. Now we're moved on to conversation piece. This is one of our climate and water outlook videos. So we do these every 2 weeks now with the 2 different formats, being the conversational piece. I might actually get you to pause it there if I could. The conversational piece, and then at the end of the month we do a sort of longer form piece where we look back at the recent conditions of the last month or the last season. And those videos are really aimed at the agricultural industry, emergency management audiences, rather than the general community. And then this last form here, you can start playing again, thank you, is what we call a video news release. These are done all around the country by our officers, and they're really aimed at the media, and particularly regional TV outlets who can't get into the office to interview our staff. So I guess one of the things that we try and do, no matter what time of the year it is we always want to be present so that people really, when they really need us, they trust us and they know where to find us. So I'll go on to the next slide now, and I'll really start focusing on the 2019-20 season. So as we all know, the season started very early, and we'd spent quite a bit of time in the cool season creating new educational content and also repurposing some of our old content. And this was all under this coordinated public safety campaign under the Know Your Weather, Know Your Risk banner. So this was led by our marketing team, and really, as I say, it was that more coordinated approach to creating campaign content. So it encompassed our normal severe weather videos, which now have carry the Know Your Weather, Know Your Risk tag, our Understanding video series, which is a series that has been going for years. We've created several different types of content, but we rebranded, repurposed that this year, or before the start of the warm season. It also includes blog articles, animations and graphics for social media, things like that. So in preparation for this campaign, our lead marketer went through and identified topics and areas where we were lacking content. And one of those, for example, was we had no videos explaining floods. So we worked really hard through the cool season to have that content ready to draw on, and we've now got it at any time. We also got smarter this year, I think, when we were repurposing some of our videos and bringing them into that more 3D land. We started pulling out little animations of standalone pieces, and I'll show you one of those shortly. And that was, something that worked really well. And I'm sure, as many of you would appreciate, it can be quite challenging to sufficiently analyse campaign material. But we know we reached around 10 million people through this year's campaign, and we're going to continue to hopefully increase that number with the aim of losing no lives in Australia due to natural hazards. Perhaps ambitious, but that's definitely what we're aiming for. So I'll move on to the next slide now. This is one of those pieces of standalone content that was actually created for a longer form video. So this is from our Understanding Fire Weather video, showing basically how a wind change can change the direction and the extent of the fire front. So we posted this on Facebook and Instagram, but it was really on Instagram that had just been incredibly effective. When we posted it, had over 42,000 engagements, and at the time, an average for that month was around 8,000 engagements. So it was a really interesting piece of information that we were able to gather, that we do create these long form videos, but sometimes just something simple like this really short 30-second snippet can be just as effective. I'll move on to the next slide. This is a simple graphic that I wanted to show because it was a piece of content that really surprised us. It's a graphic showing a fire and a pyrocumulonimbus cloud, basically the fire's generated its own weather. So in conditions where we have so those really hot days where the winds are right, we've got a bit of humidity in the air, we can see the fires just get so ferocious that they can generate their own thunderstorms. And an incredibly dangerous situation where they have, if you look at the number 5 there, the downburst, they're creating their own wind, and they're also creating their own lightning, which can then start fires ahead of the main fire front. So incredibly dangerous for anybody in those areas, and also really challenging for those on the ground firefighting. So we had talked in the cool season about attempting to animate this video, to animate this graphic, because we just thought it could be just a really great piece of content, but it was going to be very challenging, and we kind of just ran out of time in the end. So our social media team said, right, let's just put out this graphic and see what happens. So we put it out in November 1st and had over 42,000 engagements, and at that time our average engagement for the month was around 15,000. And then in February we popped it out again, and this time had over 62,000 engagements at a time where we were averaging around 23,000. So just shows sometimes the simple things can be just as effective, if not more effective, when they're released at the right time. So move on to the next slide now. This was another piece of content that was really successful, and I mean, I may say that because it was my baby. But this season, we had no new people resources. My team had prepped our broadcast weather graphics software to ingest a lot more bureau data automatically, which really helped us speed up production. There was lots of data that we've been able to show in the past, but it was often a manual kind of process that took its time to come together. And we also procured a touch screen so we could display graphics, and that really enabled these conversation videos to happen. So we know that the fire season started very early. We had these exceptionally warm and windy days. So it wasn't surprising that the community and the media were all asking what's causing this weather and when is the pattern going to break. We know from comments from the community in the past that there was a general lack of understanding of how the climate and the weather fits together, which is actually not surprising because from a bureau's perspective, we've generally had our meteorologists who talk about the weather, we kind of stay in our lane, and then we've had the climatologists who talk about the climate and they stay in their lane. But we never really brought together the two and really fully communicated what they mean together. So we saw this as a perfect opportunity. So, and it was something that I've been really wanting us to do for a long time. So we had to go pretty high up in the organisation to ask to be able to start creating this new content because there were some sensitivities around climate change at the time. But we got the go-ahead and Andrew and I came together and we talked through, we looked at the questions, we collated the type of graphics that we wanted to show, and we literally just walked into our video studio and had a conversation. We didn't really rehearse or anything like that. We ended up producing a 5-minute conversation video. Now that was actually pretty risky because we know that our sweet spot with our audience is around 1:30. So to produce a 5-minute video, yeah, it could have gone bad, but I'm pleased to say it didn't. On YouTube, we had an average retention of around 3 minutes. So we basically doubled our retention. And on Facebook, we also saw some really great analytics with 44% of Bureau followers watching to halfway through, which is basically unheard of because we normally have an audience who likes short and sharp. But yeah, I think that this was largely to do with the fact that we were actually responding directly to the questions that the audience were asking. So I'll move on to the next slide now, which is looking at some of our challenges. Of course, as I said, it wasn't a season without challenges, but I think one of the biggest challenges we had, it was actually not with producing content, but was more with actually making some adaptations that we needed to make throughout the season, thanks to some climate change related comments on social media. So we've been dealing with, you know, trolls and climate skeptics for ever since we started on social media. But this year it got pretty nasty. On Facebook, there was a point where any video that we posted, didn't matter what it was, or any piece of content, attracted hundreds of trolls. Even I remember there was a severe weather video that we were doing about a Cat 4, potential Cat 5 cyclone off WA. And it was just attracted, I think, over 700 comments, and most were negative. So we knew that we had to make some changes on what we were posting. So we started now using Facebook and Instagram stories for putting our more climate related content out there, and we've removed the longer form videos from Facebook. Keeping in mind that this content was more aimed at the agricultural industry or emergency management sectors anyway. Yeah, it wasn't an easy decision, but something that we've found has been successful, and the stories are going really well. We're also expecting once COVID starts to ease that climate change will be back front of mind, so we're looking at creating some more proactive content in the background as well. The mental health of our presenters and our moderators was something that was also a real challenge this year. You know, they were the people who were reading the negative comments. Our presenters ended up getting, you know, personal attacks at times on Facebook from trolls. And these were also the same people who were really looking at the devastation and hearing the stories. So that was something that we really needed to manage, and I think, like many organisations, we could still do better. Approvals for a government organisation when aren't approvals a challenge. But yeah, we had some really good successes this year at streamlining some approvals. So I think that we're getting our content out there a lot faster than we were before. And also staff fatigue, of course. We're actually really small teams who are doing a lot of work, and we don't have the amazing pool of people that some of the emergency management agencies can draw on. So yeah, small teams doing lots of work was definitely led to some fatigue. I'll move on to the last or second last slide now, just going through some of our successes and our learnings. We had some great increase in YouTube views and audience retention. Lots of our YouTube traffic is now coming from videos that we can embed on the landing page of our website, which is at this stage only severe weather videos, but hopefully we'll be able to increase that. We're also getting good drive to YouTube through ABC articles that embed our videos, and also pleasingly through Google searches. I think we showed this year that new formats can be winners. The conversation pieces, the short animations have been great. And then creating content to answer questions. It sounds just so straightforward and so easy that you would do that. But I think as organisations, we often have our own messages that we are trying to get out. So it comes back again to what Shane said earlier about giving people the information that they need. So I think that we showed that was really successful this year. We recycled content and posted it more than once and showed that that's okay, that works too. And yeah, the last one really does refer to those, the way we've changed our climate content, the way we post it, and just don't be afraid to change things up. Sometimes, people internally may not understand, and so it can take a bit of education, but you can always go back if things don't work. So I think what we really tried to do this year was really take people on the journey, having that whole campaign in mind, having all our content, or as much of our content, all ready to go as possible. We tried to mix it up and really try to listen and answer the questions this year. I'll just go to the last slide very quickly. Just wanted to touch on some of the things that we've done since COVID. So we've all been working from home basically since the end of March. So my team scrambled to do a couple of weeks of testing of all the types of equipment that people had access to. We wanted to make sure that we had some sustainable tech options, that we could maintain that high quality, good audio, and most importantly, keep getting our content out there. We created a very simple guide for people to follow, how to set up their environments, and to make sure that you have a plant on hand. So you will notice over my right shoulder, I have a plant behind me just for that purpose. And the last thing that we've done is we brought on earlier this year a multimedia officer who's taken a lot of the content that we already had out there that we haven't had time to look back at while we've been creating new content, and they've repurposed it. So we've had the Ask Bomb series, which each week, pretty much since we've been working from home, we've had a different series or a different topic that we've been putting on social media. And basically that idea of keeping people educated, because if they're educated, they can make better decisions when they need to. So that's definitely been our aim through all of this. So thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you today. I'm very happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. There's a couple of questions here. The first one is, the bomb has exceptional content. The engagement is clearly showing this. Is there something that is the platform that you're testing them on, or are you testing audiences?
No, not really. We kind of put things out, and then, we're very happy to change things up if we need to. We're really just trying to learn along the way. Yeah, I think we have we have lots of really creative people, and we do really try and listen to what the audience is asking us. And yeah, I think we're getting better at listening. So we're getting better at maybe creating the types of content that people want more, and that's helping our engagement. Interestingly, this year, we produced so much for our weather content. but our engagement on our fire weather content overall ended up only being about 9%. And then if we look at heat wave, where we don't really have very much engaging heatwave content at all, because it's very challenging to create engaging heatwave content. Our engagement rates on heatwave content was around 23%. So it's really interesting, but we're just definitely trying to learn as we go along.
Absolutely, we all are. There's a question here about, you've got a great archive, and I noticed one of your dot points was you can reuse content. This question is asking around, is there new science that means materials will need to keep being developed and developed?
I think meteorologically and probably climatologically, not so much. I mean, there's definitely new research coming out, and we would actually love to tell some of the research stories and things like that. I guess one of the things we do to help make sure that our content is relevant and valid is also putting timestamps and dates on, just like Lauren was talking about earlier. That was when we first started doing severe weather videos. One of the biggest concerns from our colleagues in our states and territories was, how are people going to know that the content's not valid anymore, or things like that. So we've always timestamped all of that content. Probably some of the challenges that we have are around when we're using stock footage. We actually, quite a bit of the footage that we've used in the past has been from the ABC, and we have licensing problems around that because we had like a 5-year license, so we've had to retire some content. So yeah, I guess we're not afraid to do that if we need to. If something's not relevant anymore, we will take it down and we'll repurpose it and make sure that it is still valid.
There's a question here in response to you saying we're getting better at answering the questions that people are asking. And this is saying, where did you get the questions from? Was it comments on social media?
Yeah, mainly comments on social media, and also through the type of requests that were coming in from the media. So we just happen to all be co-located. So we've got our national media team sitting next to my social media team, and I sit next to them. So we all sit really close together. We're kind of talking through every day the types of questions that are coming in. And so, yeah, from the video team's perspective, we're definitely talking all the time with the social media team to make sure that we're keeping the content as relevant as possible.
This is quite a specific question. Do you have preferred days or times of day to release your social media content?
As far as all content goes, I'd have to probably refer to our social media team for that. I mean, I think there is definitely some fairly obvious times. So sort of first thing in the morning, and then around lunchtime, and then in the evening. So the times where people are on social media at most. When it comes to the severe weather content that we put out, like the severe weather videos, for example, that comes down to more, at the moment anyway, when we've got people available, how long it takes to write a script. It used to be how long approvals at the end. So we used to do severe weather approvals post-production. Yeah. We've now moved that to a pre-production approval process, which has really changed how quickly we can get content out. So with the severe weather videos, we kind of, as soon as that's ready, we will put that out, because we just want that to get out there at the right time. But as we're now moving towards having communication meteorologists whose primary role it is to communicate, I imagine that we might get more move more to sort of having scheduled content. So, maybe we'll do something like have a daily video at lunchtime, and then keep our severe weather content more to the afternoon. So we might trial something like that, just to kind of see how that goes with the community. And but yeah, I think the key thing is to be not afraid to change things up.
I know that I've seen BOM work really hard over the last 5+ years to become more and more accessible. to make complex information accessible to the people you're talking to. This question asks, with complex science and knowing your videos are best received at 1 minute 30, how do you decide what to include and what to cut?
Oh, it's so hard. For myself, when I'm presenting, it's probably the most stressful thing. But absolutely the thing that I try and do, and I've tried to kind of encourage all the presenters to do, is to get the key impact information up there in the first 20 seconds. So I will always start by basically saying, you know, we've got this weather event, you can expect this, this and this, and then kind of go into the detail. And interestingly, that actually goes against, as a meteorologist, what you learn. We learn start with the big scale and then funnel in. But with video, to get that key information up the front, you've got to start at the pointy end and then build on the story. So it's definitely been a challenge. Yeah, and I guess every presenter is different as well. We all speak at different speeds. So one of the things that we probably all like to do is write our own script. So I know for me, I'm probably aiming for around a 300-word script to kind of get into that minute 30, maybe 2 minutes. I think I just saw a report this morning actually from our YouTube saying our average retention gone up to nearly 2 minutes. So that was really pleasing. I've got a little bit more time now.
I've got a couple of questions about the trolls. One is, what's the policy? Do you engage with them at all? And the other one is, do you think the trolls are individuals or bots? And if so, is there anything you can do about that?
Yeah, as far as do we engage with them at all, again, this is probably really more one for our social media team. We've tended to not. We had a stage generally where we had an audience who was kind of self-moderating. So we generally have the trolls, and then we'd have supporters in the community who would come out and say, oh no, hang on, you know, that's not right, or, you know, look at this information or whatever. Through the really bad stages of, I guess, probably the end of January and February this year, we basically had no supporters for us because the trolls were just jumping on them and attacking them as well. So that was really definitely challenging. We hide a lot of comments, you know, anything we've got some really strong rules around what we'll leave up and what we won't. And, you know, there's some times where you can maybe point them to something, but I think in a lot of cases there's just no point. And I think a lot of them are trolls rather than bots. I think what's happening is that because of the Facebook algorithms, and look, my social media manager will know much more about all of this, but with all the algorithms, as soon as something climate, it doesn't matter what it is, it just has the word climate, comes up, it goes to the wrong people. They're not necessarily, the content isn't necessarily getting to the right people. And so again, that's one of the reasons why we were quite happy to move the climate and water videos off Facebook, because it wasn't our targeted audience anyway. We found another way to still get the information out there, and people are engaging positively and watching that content. So that's been great. But yeah, it's been a real challenge.
We've probably only got time for one more question. Do you find, or how did you create, or were you lucky enough to just have the executive support of the new methods before they were launched?
Oh, it probably all comes back to respect. So we've been, as I said, creating video content for about 6.5 years now. There was probably at least a good, I'd say, 4.5 years before that, that we've been trying to explain the benefits of this sort of content. And then over time, over the last 6.5 years, you know, we've built up the respect of the leaders in the organisation, and not just the leaders, but actually lots of people around the organisation as well. I think for some of the content, like the climate and weather conversation piece, we did have to go very high up to get support to do that. I actually kind of took the approach with that one. Let's just, we sort of had the conversations about it. We hadn't kind of had the proper yeah, you can do it. And I was like, you know what, let's do it. Let's show them and make sure that they, you know, maybe once they see it, they'll understand the benefits of it. And that definitely, you know, we sort of had the green light, give it a try, but it wasn't really until they saw it that they understood. And it wasn't just like the Facebook community or that came back with great feedback. It was also stakeholders like the Rural Fire Service and Qantas came back and said, thank you so much for doing this. So I think once you can, you know, you set that respect at the start, and then if you can go back with the evidence and say, yeah, this worked, then when you come to them the next time round to create something new, they're going to have more belief in what you're trying to do and respect that you have that understanding to do it and do it well.